Hi, welcome to Right to Top. I'm Adam. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about subject-verb agreement. Now, this is a crucial element of writing, even in speaking, but especially in writing. You have to make sure that your subjects and your verbs always agree. Now, this is especially important when you're looking at clauses. Every sentence has at least one clause, but it can have many clauses. Every clause must have a subject and a verb. The subject and the verb must agree. Now, there are many different elements we're going to be looking at, but in today's video, we're going to call this part 1. I'm going to look only at the very direct link between subject and verb, recognizing the tense verb, recognizing the subjects, making sure they agree, and what it exactly does it mean to agree. So let's start with subject-verb agreement. Generally speaking, what does that mean? A subject and a verb must agree in terms of numbers or number, person, and logic. In terms of number, singular subject must have a singular verb, plural subject must have a plural verb. Of course, it's very important that you recognize whether the subject is in fact singular or plural, okay? If you can't recognize that, if you can't even recognize what the subject is, you're going to have a problem agreeing with the verb. Now, generally speaking, we're going to look at that in a second. What does it mean to agree in terms of number? Do you add an S or do you not add an S? We're going to look at that because that has a lot to do with person. First person, second person, third person. First person, I, we. Second, you. Third, he, she, it, they. Okay, those are the persons. Now, every subject falls into one of these person categories. Things are it or they. So everything, even ideas, even concepts, even activities, everything has a person. And if it's not a human person, then it's an it or a they if it's plural. And logic. This is, again, you'd be surprised how many times people don't realize that the subject they have and the verb they connected it with just don't make logical sense. The subject can't do this verb. Or they might need to change from an active to a passive voice in order for the sentence, for the agreement to make sense. But we're going to look at some examples. The main thing to remember in terms of numbers, a singular subject means only one. Third person, meaning he, she, or it. In the present tense, the verb must have an S. So I have, he has. You are, she is. We do, it does. He, she, it. Present tense, make sure there's an S in the verb to agree in terms of number. In the past tense of be, he was, she was, it was. Everything else is different except for I. I was, that's the exception. So this is basically what we're looking for in terms of agreement between subject and verb. Now, there are a lot of different elements we can look at, but in today's video, I just want to look at making sure that you recognize subjects and verbs and then make sure that they go together. So let's look at some examples. The doctor was notified that he or she, doctors could be both, needs to report all cases. Doctor, singular, was. He needs, she needs. Doctors, plural, were. They, plural, need, no S. So very straightforward, singular with an S, plural without the S in the present tense, in the past tense. Make sure you recognize the subject, okay? Despite his best efforts, it is unlikely that Mike's presentation was impressive enough to secure the nomination. Now here, it's obvious it is singular, so it takes is, but what is it? It is called a dummy subject or a preparatory subject. Basically, the subject of this clause, of this actual sentence, is that Mike's presentation was impressive. That is the noun clause. It is the subject of the sentence, but we don't like to begin sentences with a that noun clause. We move it to later in the sentence. We put it near the end of the sentence, and we put an it in its place. Make sure you recognize that the it equals that noun clause. Noun clauses are always singular, and therefore they take the singular is, the singular verb, and make sure they agree. Now, in the noun clause, you have a different subject, presentation, not Mike. The apostrophe S tells you that Mike's is an adjective, a possessive adjective. Presentation is the subject, was is the verb because it was. The parcels deliver every Monday. Now, parcels or boxes or packages, can parcels deliver? No, deliver means be brought, be carried somewhere. A parcel is a box. It doesn't have hands. It can't carry anything. So in this case, the subject and verb don't agree in terms of logic. Okay? The parcels can't do this. So in this case, there's two ways you can fix this. You can make it a passive. The courier delivered. So the parcels were delivered every Monday, or the parcels are delivered every Monday. Okay? And the courier is the one doing the delivering. So the courier, you can change the subject. The courier delivers parcels every Monday. Courier, singular, delivers with an S. The parcels, plural, are delivered every Monday. Make sure that logically, numerically, person, everything agrees. Now, let's look at a few other situations. It's very common that a subject and a verb are separated by a phrase, by other clauses, lots of different things. You can have descriptors, you can have adjectives, adverbs, whatever. Even if the subject and verb are not right next to each other, they still must agree. Don't lose focus of the connection between them. Throughout the day, parcels from all over the world are delivered to this depot. Subject, parcels, verb are delivered. From all over the world, this is a prepositional phrase. It comes between them. They still have to match. This is a pretty easy sample to see, but we're going to look at more complicated ones in a second. Rosie, whose husband works for the senator and often needs to travel around the country for business and official reasons, has finally filed for divorce. Make sure you recognize your independent clause. In this case, the independent clause is Rosie has filed for divorce. What comes between is an adjective clause, tells you some information about Rosie, about her husband. The adjective clause has its own subject and verb. Husband works, but we also have and. So here you have a compound predicate, a compound verb to agree with the husband. So the husband works and needs. Okay, needs to travel. So husband singular, works, needs. Make sure that both verbs agree with the subject husband. Has filed, present perfect, but has agrees with Rosie, singular. Make sure you don't lose sight, even if there's a lot between them. Okay? Here's a little bit more complicated one. Those who, according to the latest polls, consider themselves well informed and able to make a sound decision based on facts that they had mined for themselves from reliable sources are nevertheless in the minority. The subject is those. What's the verb? Are. Very far apart, lots of stuff in between. You have two clauses in between to confuse you. Who is the adjective clause that defines which people, who are those people. Who, consider. Consider is the verb, the subject is who. You must always find the subject, you must always find the verb. And then you have on facts that they had mind, another adjective clause in the adjective clause. They, subject, had mind. Now, in this case, past perfect, you're not gonna have an issue with number because he had, she had, it had, they had, we had, I had. All of them are going to be the same, but they still have to work together. And are goes with those. Far away, lots between, you still have to make sure they agree. Don't lose sight or don't lose focus of the subject and the verb. Now, one way to make sure that all your verbs and subjects agree and are matched together is to identify the verb first. How you go about doing this is you look for all the tense verbs. Remember, one clause can only have one tense verb. It can have many verbs, but only one tense verb, a verb that takes a time, okay? So first thing you want to do in a sentence is look for all the verbs. Then once you find all the tense verbs, find a subject to go with them. So have a look at this sentence. You can press pause on your video player. Look at the sentence. Tell me how many verbs, how many tense verbs do you see? You should see 6. Is, states, happens, is permitted, brings, went on. Okay? 6 verbs, 6 tense verbs in this sentence. Now you have to make sure that each of these verbs has a matching subject. In this particular case, it's pretty easy because they're all more or less together. There is an old adage in America, an adage like a proverb, a saying, that states. Okay, the adage, that states. So adjective clause, that subject, states. That, now we're getting into an object noun clause. Whatever happens, whatever is the subject, happens is the verb. In Vegas, stays in Vegas. Sorry, 7. You have 7 tense verbs. Stays is the other one. Whatever happens in Vegas, noun clause, subject, stays, verb to the noun clause in Vegas. Meaning that everything, subject, regardless of extremity, intensity, moral integrity, and so on, is permitted. Everything is permitted. As long as no one among the group of friends, colleagues, or otherwise brings. No one brings home the secrets of what went on. What is the subject, went on is the verb of this noun clause as object of the preposition. Okay, so more or less they're all together. There is, that states, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Everything is permitted. No one brings what went on. So all of these are together now. Everything matches, everything agrees. The problem generally happens when people don't understand what the subject is. So here again are 2 examples. I want you to read both sentences carefully. Make sure you understand all the subjects and all the verbs and try to match them. Take a moment, look at it, and then press play and I'll explain these sentences to you. Okay, so let's start. Everything you say during the interview, whether it is true or not, relevant or not, impressive or not, is going to be reviewed once they have their final list of candidates. So be sure you do not say anything you will regret later. Let's look at the verbs. Say. So the verb is say, the subject is you. During the interview, is. The verb is, the subject is it. Let's keep going. Is going to be. Is going to be is the verb. Okay, so now, where is the subject? You have to keep going back until you find something that can be a subject. In this case, it's everything. Everything is going to be reviewed. That is your independent clause. Once, okay, and then we continue. Have is the verb, they is the subject. So be sure you do not say anything. So the verb here is be sure. So is this a tense verb? Yes, it's a command. It's an imperative tense. You're giving an order to somebody. So be sure the subject is you. When you're giving a command, the understood subject is always you. So you, be sure. And be sure is the command tense. It's like the base form of the verb. So play nice with your friends. Not plays, not played, play. The base verb for the imperative, the subject is you. Okay? Do not say, subject, you. Again. So that's a little bit easier. Everything is I'm gonna put that in another video. I'm gonna show you the problems with everything, each, none. There's a lot of different situations to think about with subject-verb agreement, but that'll be part 2, a second video. Look at the second sentence. Now, let's look again. Let's just look only at the verbs. Hurt. Hurt people. So hurt is the verb, their actions. Hurt. Suffer is the verb, who is the subject. Competitors who attempt. Attempt is the verb, who is the subject. Competitors, this is an adjective clause here. Cannot compete. So cannot, again, goes back to who attempt but cannot. Same subject, competitors. Seems. Now, here we have a tense verb, obviously. Seems, present tense with the S. What is the subject? Pricing seems to be the least? No. We have to look back. It's very difficult to find the subject. The subject for the verb seems is that their actions hurt people. Noun, clause, subject. Lots of things in between. Noun clause is always a singular subject, so that's why it seems. But you have to recognize this subject and make sure that the verb connects and agrees back to that subject. Seems to be the least of the etc. in their quest for greater. No more verbs. there you go. You have to be very sure that you recognize the subject. And this is a very important part of writing, especially because many people, they lose their own focus. They start with the subject. They're trying to make complicated sentences. By the time they get to the verb that agrees with the subject, they've already lost sight of that subject and they make a mistake with the verb. And then the reader really can't make sense of the sentence because nothing really connects. Subject-verb agreement can make or break your sentence, your paragraph, your entire essay. Make sure you practice. Make sure that every sentence you write, every subject, every verb agree. This is especially important when reading, okay? If you're doing the TOEFL, if you're doing the IELTS, CAE, any test, the reading section is going to be full of sentences like this. And they want to make sure that you know what the subject is, what the verb is, how everything works together. Make sure you can recognize the subject, okay? So that is it for today. In the next video, in part 2, I'm going to look at different types of subjects and how they work with verbs. There is, there are. Which one do you use? Depends what follows. Each, every, the number of, the amount of. We're going to look at things like A and B are. Neither A nor B. You could use is or are, depending what came in that subject. You're going to look at collective nouns. The staff is, the staff are. The police is, the police are. So all of these things are very important when it comes to agreement. I'll save that for the next video because it's a lot of little details. I don't want to burden you too much today. If you have any questions about this lesson, please ask down here at YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. There'll be lots of grammar videos, writing videos, vocabulary, all sorts of neat things to help you guys out. And come again soon. I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.